day to stay inside, watch the news. Thanks for starting your week with us. Right to our top story this morning. At this hour, speculation swirling as we await the first indictment in Special Counsel Robert Mueller's Russia probe. It's an announcement that could be made today.
But top Republicans are already calling into question the whole investigation over alleged leaks by Mueller's team. Griff Jenkins is live in Washington, D.C. with what we can expect today. Good morning, Griff.
Jillian, Rob, good morning, and forgive the drilling in the background. That's not Mueller's team. That's just people working on our building. And there is intense speculation today that we could see individuals taken into custody as soon as this morning if these reported leaks in the investigation are true, if the grand jury has approved these first charges. And look, we have no idea who might be charged or even what the charges are, although we have reported on some of the targets of Mueller's investigation, like Mike Flynn, the president's former national security advisor, or Paul Manafort, the campaign chairman. Whoever it is, Congressman Trey Gowdy, a former federal prosecutor himself, says he is frustrated this is leaked out.
We don't know who's being charged. We don't know what they're being charged for. The only conversation I've had with Robert Mueller, it was stressing to him the importance of cutting out the leaks with respect to serious investigations. Make no mistake, disclosing grand jury material is a violation of the law.
The ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff, says he has not been informed of the charges and wouldn't comment if he knows whether or not the president is being investigated. And when pressed, here's what he had to say.
The idea that the president is not under investigation, is that your conclusion?
I can't comment on that, George. I can't answer that one way or the other.
One way or the, you wouldn't know whether Robert Mueller is investigating the president?
I can't comment on that at all.
Meanwhile, President Trump unleashed on Twitter yesterday a series of 5 tweets in total pointing to the lack of investigation into links between Russia and Hillary Clinton and Democrats, saying at one point, quote, "There is so much guilt by Democrats Clinton, and now the facts are pouring out. Do something." Now, guys, we've got stakeouts all over town. We won't tell you where, but if something happens, we will indeed hopefully bring it to you as soon as it does. And just a quick note, the president pointing out on Twitter that this Russia talk was a distraction for his tax reform agenda. It may get in the way. Republicans are supposed to unveil that bill on Wednesday.
Okay.
All right, Griff, thank you. And with the speculation swirling in Washington about who will be charged, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, a former federal prosecutor, says if it's you, there's no doubt you don't already know.
The people who have been before the grand jury wouldn't know that there were charges. You go in there, you testify, you get out. And so I think what's really important to focus on here today is what we don't know. And what we don't know is who this person is. We don't know what the charges are. We don't know anything except there's a report that someone says there'll be charges on Monday and that there's a sealed indictment. And so once that happens, we'll have a lot more to react to. But the one thing that's clear here is, I heard someone say, oh, are people nervous? Believe me, if you're the person, you know. I mean, you've already been told you're a target. Your lawyers have been, if you've been asked to come into the grand jury, they've got to advise you of your status as to whether you're a target. If you've been told you're a target, believe me, you're not sleeping well anyway.
All right, now to a Fox News alert. North Korea possibly making new preparations for war by simulating attack responses. State media in North Korea reporting that citizens are having rare blackout exercises and mass evacuation drills. Meanwhile, the U.S. flew a nuclear-capable B-2 stealth bomber over the Pacific this weekend in that region, just days ahead of the president's visit to Asia.
Congress wants to know more about how decisions are made before U.S. troops are sent into battle. Defense Secretary James Mattis and Secretary of State Rex Tillerson will testify today to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee over a war authorization bill put in place after 9/11 that allows military force against terrorist groups like ISIS. The deaths of 4 U.S. soldiers ambushed by terrorists in Niger, ramping up calls to reconsider the broad war authority and give Congress more control. Fox News has learned White House senior advisor Jared Kushner made an unannounced trip to Saudi Arabia last week. Kushner flying out on a commercial flight Wednesday, returning Saturday night. Now, we don't know who he met with, but the White House said he discussed the Trump administration's peace initiative. This is the 3rd time Kushner has visited Saudi Arabia this year.
All right, we are now learning how an escaped inmate got from West Virginia all the way to the Rio Grande, where he was caught trying to cross into Mexico. Police nabbing 43-year-old Todd Boys and a getaway driver who they say picked him up from jail. It took prison officials nearly 2 days to realize that Boys had escaped, and 4 officers have now been suspended in this, and we're going to see where that goes. Boys had been charged with attempted murder of a police officer after stealing a car.
2 sailors rescued after nearly 6 months lost at sea are back on dry ground this morning.
Yeah, U.S. Navy ship docking overnight at an American naval base in Japan. The women thanking the crew and calling on President Trump to honor their efforts.
Your commanding officer, Steve Wasson, and your XO, Patrick German, are 2 of the finest individuals that you have serving underneath you. Yes. You definitely need to accommodate them.
6 months lost at sea. It is incredible. The women say they want to recover their boat and still visit the island of Tahiti, their original destination, after leaving Hawaii in May. Maybe they should fly this
I was going to say, maybe go a different route or something.
A lot shorter than 6 months. All right. Well, it is the largest single-team protest in the NFL yet. All except 10 Houston Texans players kneeling or sitting during the national anthem.
Yeah, this show of force in response to owner Bob McNair comparing the players to, quote, inmates. Kelly Wright live in Washington, D.C. Kelly, this is the first time anyone on the Texans has protested this season, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is the first time they've ever participated in this. They usually stand, even after the furor over President Trump's comments about players. They still remain standing. But Sunday, the Houston Texans and Seattle Seahawks played one of the greatest games, by the way, this season. But the actions of the Texans players before the game, well, that still has many people talking because it was so dramatic. For the first time this season, the Texans took a knee during the national anthem. All but 10 of the players were kneeling in protest of controversial comments made by team owner Bob McNair. And during a recent meeting with other NFL team owners discussing the NFL players' protests for racial and social issues during the national anthem, McNair said, "We can't have inmates running the prison." And after his comments were made public, he issued an apology to his team and the NFL players twice, stating that his comments were very regretful. And he went on to say, "I am truly sorry to the players for how this has impacted them and the perception that it has created of me, which could not be further from the truth." Even Jay-Z tackled McNair's comments, telling fans at his show in Anaheim, California, "Whatever you believe in, we come from one source, which means we are all brothers and sisters." Now, beyond the McNair issue, the NFL and players have canceled their meeting in Philadelphia today. Philadelphia Eagles safety Malcolm Jenkins, a spokesman for the players, claims the NFL wants to get back to football and move past the anthem demonstration. We will continue to follow the developments.
Yeah, they keep coming. That's right. Kelly, thanks for joining us this morning.
Sure.
The Los Angeles Dodgers and Houston...
LA losing Game 6. I think it's going to go 7. We shall see.
We shall see.
10 minutes after the hour, political smears and a partridge in a pear tree. The very damaging Christmas gift President Obama planned to give President Trump just revealed.
And as we just mentioned, anthem outrage boiling over as nearly every player on the Texans takes a knee. Former NFL player Burgess Owens has a message to the protesters: stand up and man up. He joins us live next.
And the swamp may not be fully drained just yet, but the White House is covered in bats, spiders, and cobwebs. The haunted makeover you're going to want to see. It's coming up. Stay tuned. Ooh. Okay, welcome back. Well, a despicable alliance involving political activist groups here in the United States. A new book revealing left-wing radicals in the Oakland, California area worked with ISIS and Al-Qaeda. All-Out War, the plot to destroy Trump, detailing a secret FBI investigation which found that terrorists were helping leaders of this group, an unnamed group in Oakland, acquire weapons in Germany, including bomb-making equipment and toxic chemicals. Can you believe this? One of the men even went to Syria, an American, to meet with ISIS for tactics training. Another bombshell discovery from that same book showing how Democrats such as former President Obama and Susan Rice tried to undermine President Trump around Christmas time of this year was the effort by attempting to unmask several names of Republican campaign officials who may have been communicating with Russian officials. This book, All Out War, hits the store shelves tomorrow. Jillian.
Anthem outrage boiling over as the Houston Texans stage the largest protest yet, with nearly every member on the team taking a knee or sitting for the anthem. The protest in response to team owner Bob McNair comparing the players to inmates. Here now to react is former NFL player and author of Liberalism or How to Turn Good Men into Whiners, Weenies, and Wimps, Burgess Owens. Good morning, Burgess. Thanks for joining us. Just your initial reaction when you first of all heard Bob McNair's comments that came out last week, and then when you saw nearly all of the Texans kneeling.
Well, I think the first thing we have to realize is we're at a point where these young men, they've been chosen to represent their team. There's no position they can't play. There's no limitation of income they can't make. And for some reason, they're now calling their employer racist. You know, what it comes down to is this. I remember growing up, something called inmates running an asylum or the tail wagging a dog. At the end of the day, the translation is very simply this. Employees do not have a chance to have an opportunity to boss the boss. And these young men have to understand that. And what gets me is that they're so upset, so sensitive about issues like being called SOBs or whatever. And meanwhile, in the black community, what's happening to what our women are being called? What's happening to the disrespect of the racial stereotypes of black women, of young black men that are now they're looked at as thugs? We have an issue, and the issue is not what we're seeing in the NFL. The issue is what's going on behind the scenes where these young people have been trained and indoctrinated to really hate our country. Look, and it's been done by the same people, the same left that is trying to make this a big issue now.
I think some people can understand how they would be upset. I think it's a poor choice of words on Bob McNair's part, to be honest with you, in referring to the players as inmates. But look, you're talking about guys now who have been fighting this battle for this is the second season. There was supposed to be a social concerns meeting between the players and the owners in Philadelphia today. That's been canceled. Malcolm Jenkins has been saying we want to move past this. How do you see them being able to move past it?
Well, I think the first thing, if they're concerned about the image of the NFL being inmates, let's do something about that. 20 guys every single year for the last 17 years are arrested for different things. There is an issue with thuggery within the NFL, and we have to understand where that comes from. At the same time, it is not up to white men to handle the black problem. We have wealthy young men now. Let's get together. Let's figure out what they can do in the community to make sure that 83% of those black men, the boys that are not working, are beginning to work. That's 75% of black boys right now in California are unable to pass reading and writing standards. What are black people doing about that? And maybe we should hold these black politicians accountable, because they're the ones that's protecting these guys and allowing this to happen to our race. So there's a lot to be done. It's being done by black people, though, and we need to make sure that we as black men stand up and man up, and let's make sure our community is being taken care of the way it should be.
Well, and I know you've noticed, and I've noticed too, you know, I think that some of the players can learn a thing or two from a guy like Chris Long, who's now donating every paycheck, all 16 games this season, to educational equality.
I'm so glad you brought it up. Chris Long is a minority, by the way. He's a minority player. And if we really want to have things done with, how about if our black men on the sideline do the exact same thing? I think the last 5 games he's donating to inner city communities. If we did that, we pull our resources together and pull our thoughts and start mentoring our kids and stand up for the one thing that allows us to know that we have a better chance. The last thing we need to do is Marxists to teach our kids they don't have hope in this country, and that's exactly what's happening. So understand, young man, that people are looking at you. Kids are looking at you. They don't have fathers at home. They're looking at you. Stand up, man up, and let's tell them they can have hope and they get this big thing done with by working hard and being a good, honest, good American.
Well, hopefully they're listening. Burgess Owens, thank you for joining us this morning.
Makes some very good points. All right, 19 minutes after the hour, a Fox News alert, a brand new plot just uncovered. ISIS targeting 4-year-old Prince George. Can you believe this? The terrifying message that the terror group is sending directly to the royal family.
And Roger Stone removed from Twitter after he dared to criticize CNN's Don Lemon. Carly Shimkus here live with the reaction to yet another conservative being silenced. Conservatives censored Roger Stone, now taking to Twitter after his account was suspended.
Carly Shimkus was Fox News Headlines 24/7 and SiriusXM 115 here with the reaction. He did say one or two pretty vile things
That's
to get that suspension.
So the question is, did he deserve that suspension? Republican strategist Roger Stone has been suspended from Twitter reportedly permanently after going on a profanity-laced tirade against several CNN anchors. On Friday, he attacked Don Lemon among several others, saying there are no credible fact checks that clear the Clintons on uranium. Even the people at CNN say you are a buffoon behind your back. He also said this to Don Lemon: you come across on TV as a dull-witted, arrogant party boy. You lie constantly, and no one who knows you thinks you're bright. He also sent out several other tweets using profane language. Roger Stone now telling Business Insider that he plans to sue, saying Twitter wants to avoid being regulated like a utility. No one has been willing to file the antitrust case. I am. Well, people are reacting to this story on Twitter, of all places. One person says liberal bias is rampant everywhere. Another Twitter user says, why can't there be a Twitter alternative for conservatives? And Kevin on Twitter says, libs always get a pass because, like Twitter, the mainstream media are all leftist owned and run. Still, Twitter does have a policy against harassment. So is this infringing on his free speech rights, or did he just break the rules?
Right.
That's the question.
All right, what's The Rock up to these days, Carly?
You know, we talk a lot about the 2020 election, but it looks like he might actually be interested in running. These rumors started back in May when he said this. Take a listen.
Starting tonight, I am running for the President of the United States. In the past, I never would have considered running for president. I mean, I didn't think I was qualified at all, but now I'm actually worried that I'm too qualified.
Okay, well, over the weekend at LA Comic-Con, he said, I think the people's president has a really nice ring to that. I'll just say that it would be a great opportunity to help people. That actually sounds like he's serious. What? People, of course, chiming in on Twitter. One person says, that's my guy, longtime fan, but no, not for president.
We shall see.
We'll see. We still got a whole lot of time.
He's at the end of the day, it's a popularity
Isn't it like something like The Rock? What's The Rock got cooking up? Is that what he? I don't know. You guys don't look like wrestling fans.
He could probably do a pretty good job at that. All right, let's go over to the White House, and they're getting ready for Halloween.
Yeah, they got ready for check. This is the White House. Melania Trump tweeted this out from inside the White House. It shows spiders right here, cobwebs, covered in cobwebs. She tweeted this picture out saying the People's House, the White House, is ready to celebrate Halloween. So they're having a big event for kids, military kids, and people in the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area. So they're all ready to go.
Not enough people decorate for Halloween anymore.
I know. I
like that.
I agree. Gotta get festive.
Thanks, Carly.
All right, thanks a lot.
26 minutes after the hour, add President Obama to the list of Democrats now linked to the Russian dossier. His campaign shelled out nearly $1 million to the law firm that hired Fusion GPS, kind of a way to launder that money in. So does this threaten the credibility of the Russia collusion investigation? We're going to talk about that coming up.
And the worst costume idea ever. The father who sent a mall into panic mode with his Halloween costume. So can you tell what he's supposed to be? Good morning. A Fox News alert. A chilling and sick threat from ISIS targeting 4-year-old Prince George, hinting at a potential attack on his school. The extremists releasing a picture similar to this one of the young royal leaving his South London school with a message saying, quote, even the royal family will not be left alone. UK officials have not commented on the threat. Top secret security information on one of the world's busiest airports dumped on a street. The breach now under investigation.